Professor. Jonathan, I want to play part of the moment from 2017 that may be at the center of all this. Watch.
Have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
Stop the cap.
Professor Turley, what are your thoughts after looking over this very short document that we have before us?
Well, there's a crushing irony here because the two counts involve 18 U.S.C. 1001, 18 U.S.C. 1505. The first one is the very same crime that Comey made against Michael Flynn. And Comey gave speeches delighting crowds and explaining how what he did with Flynn wasn't exactly copacetic, that he just sent a couple of guys over and basically tricked him. And ultimately, they charged him on what many of us thought was a pretty thin indictment. So there is that irony. These two counts are mirror images, it appears, that they are alleging that the false statements also constituted the obstruction. But there is the interesting aspect to this is that, as you know, Laura, it's very, very hard to make out perjury cases against particularly sophisticated players like James Comey. This is a little different because they're just focusing on one statement, and that is, did you get someone else to leak information? That's true or false. And his aide and close associate, McCabe, said that he did order him or authorize him to make such a leak. We also know that Comey later admitted that he called a friend, which I'm presuming is Columbia professor Daniel Richman, to get information to the New York Times and to the media after he was fired. So this is a rather murky situation for Comey. He was, Comey is a careful player, but he's also a bit of a rogue operator when things get tense. He went rogue with the Clinton press conference, but he particularly went rogue when he was being fired. He removed material from the FBI. The Inspector General issued a scathing report saying that he violated the FBI rules. It did not find that he leaked classified information, but that information was FBI information he should never have removed. And then he himself admitted that he called up a friend to leak some information to the media. Now, that doesn't actually give him a pristine appearance. It suggests a foundation for this type of charge. None of us are happy about seeing political opponents charged. And so this case is going to remain controversial. The president truly despises this individual, and it appears to be a mutual feeling. But when you look at the charge itself, it is different from what's...
Comey has already claimed his innocence. He says, yes, I am innocent. He also said, we will not live on our knees, signaling a defiance and resilience to what he describes as political pressure. Yeah, so yes, he is also saying that it is fear. Fear is a tool of a tyrant. So, of course, he's talking about, oh, this is fascism. He's being a dictator. No, bro, you just got caught. I'm sorry. But shout out to my man, Maine.
Your ass going to jail. Lock his ass up. Lock his ass up. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Some people might have thought it's going to come down to whether Jim Comey is a leaker and a liar.
Did he or didn't he? Did he or didn't he? And did he have the willful intent, which I think going to that point, and there are two different issues here. He passed information off to his buddy at Columbia, Richmond, who is his old colleague, and then Richmond gave it to Michael Schmidt at the New York Times, and Michael Schmidt then would shape the coverage of this Russia collusion story with that information. Now, that in and of itself demonstrates what, Jonathan? That the FBI director was intimately involved in trying to guide the media to report the situation as he saw it. When that information presumably should not have been released under any circumstances.
Yeah, I'm actually not certain as to what is more unnerving for people in Washington. The fact that a political opponent of the president was indicted, which you can have legitimate concerns about, or whether more likely it's someone's being prosecuted for a leak. I mean, this city floats on a rolling city of leaks, a sea of leaks. And, Comey and the FBI have been accused of leaking information when it serves their purpose. But this is something that occurs.
Hold on now. You can't lie to Congress, guys. You know that, right? You can't do that, especially if you plead, you put your hand on the Bible, so I'm telling the truth and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's perjury. This is what he's getting caught up for. I mean, I try to hear somebody in the chat, well, if he goes to jail, most Americans can go to jail. Bro, for perjury? Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's part of our law. Like, here's the problem. It does seem like when somebody on the left is being held accountable, you guys want to act like it's a violation of the Constitution when it's really just your side being held accountable. That's it. That's all. It's like the same thing with Kimmel. You try to say it was a free speech violation. I'm like, no, not when his bosses suspend him. No, it's pretty much just corporate interest at that point.
Often in Washington, it's done with lethal effect. So I think that many people might find it even more unnerving that this is pretty much a leak prosecution. It's false statements, but it's really all about a leak.
And Jonathan, the president, I think we have the soundbite today in the Oval Office. There's a lot going on, the executive orders. We had Erdogan's visit, but the president addressed this then potential indictment of James Comey. And this was Truth Social. He just actually posted this. Justice in America, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He's been so bad for our country for so long. It is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation.
So he faces 2 felony counts: making a false statement in violation of 18 U.S.C. Code, what was it, 1001. The indictment says Comey falsely claimed that he did not authorize someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source in media reporting, and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. The government alleged he attempted to influence, obstruct, and impede the Senate Judicial Committee's investigation by giving false or misleading statements. And this is what they got him on. Pretty much just being a liar.
America.
And hiding evidence.
Great again. Well, that's President Trump. That was not what I was going to play, but that just came out. So we decided
to be honest, I mean, yeah, if you're obstructing an investigation as an American citizen, I mean, you'll get locked up. You don't got to be the former director of the FBI for that to happen to you. And you can also get hit up with perjury as well, especially if you lie, on the stand in court.
Read that off. Well, look, everyone knows President Trump has no use for James Comey, and Comey really did enormous damage to the United States and the public's trust in the FBI over the years, and wanted Donald Trump in prison for something that was totally false, and has never apologized for it, has never shown any remorse for it, and said, in fact, he did everything basically, with.
Thank you, Hellbat. Lying under oath is a felony, which for some reason they have forgot. And I'm just looking at y'all.
That shit is hard. Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Bro, he lied under oath. Like, what? Like, how could this be like what? An unconstitutional? No, we're just following the law here.
Good faith and, in his view, by the book.
Well, in fact, he wrote a book on ethical leadership that portrayed himself as sort of the ultimate model of ethical leadership. Many of us disagreed with that. I've been a critic of Comey for a long time. We have to see what evidence there still is here. There's legitimate grounds for concern for people about a political opponent. But this is a very direct and focused indictment, and somebody is lying.
It's not a sprawling indictment. It's very, very specific, which I think is a lot smarter than doing any kind of long, windy indictment. Jonathan, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. All right, guys, let's get over to the left side of media and let's see what they got to say. All right, let's get right into it.
Former FBI Director James Comey is now the first senior government official to face charges in one of President Trump's biggest grievances.
Ooh, I mean, damn. I mean, it does suck when somebody, when you're making history in the worst way. Whoosh.
The 2016 Russia investigation. Comey is charged with giving a false statement and obstruction of a congressional proceeding relating to the testimony he gave before the Senate Judiciary Committee 5 years ago. This indictment comes just days after the president publicly demanded it, and shortly after the person the president had picked to be the U.S. attorney in this office quit. And the new U.S. attorney, 3 days into that job, did what the president had wanted to happen only 5 days before the statute of limitations was set to run out. Tonight, the president is celebrating, writing in all caps on Truth Social, quote, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation." The president ended his post with "Make America Great Again." This comes as I'm told by sources tonight that James Comey is expected to surrender tomorrow morning. We'll be watching, obviously, that appearance very closely.
Well,
But the former director of the FBI has already made quite clear tonight that he's prepared to fight these charges.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid.
and I would tell you that lying is the tool of a coward. So that's what I would like to say.
And I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Allegedly, he allegedly lied under oath. Let's remember, use the word allegedly. Remember, that's why, well, pretty much he's being indicted on it, so they feel like they have a strong case. Let's see what happens. Excuse me.
Comey saying he's prepared for this to go to trial. We'll see if that happens. And of course, this comes after the president had made no secret of his plan to try to make this day happen when he was running for re-election. So much so that I actually asked former director James Comey about this more than a year ago and whether or not he thought this day would ever come.
Do you believe that Donald Trump will come after you personally if he's reelected?
Maybe. I mean, he spent 4 years coming after me. I think all I ended up with was a $400 tax refund, which is great. I guess I overpaid my taxes. I don't worry about me. I have the resources and the friends, and I know how things work. I can defend myself. I really worry about the people who have less of that than I do, the people making the cases, the career civil servants who are prosecutors and judges who are the bedrock of our rule of law. They are the people who will be most at threat.
I want to get straight to CNN's senior justice correspondent, Evan Perez, who's following this closely. Evan, obviously, we've seen this indictment now. It's just about 2 pages. It's quite brief, actually. As you combed through it, what stood out to you?
And remember, his crimes are, well, the indictment says Comey falsely claimed that he did not authorize someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source in media reporting. And this is, well, according to the Justice Department. So, yeah, we're going to see where they got that evidence from. Maybe they got witnesses that's going to point out Comey and be like, yeah, I'm an FBI agent. Comey told me to go out there and give, false evidence. All right. It is what it is. Or, my bad, to be an anonymous source. Yes, he told me to go out there and be an anonymous source. Excuse me. Let me correct myself. So pretty much Comey's accused of telling some FBI agent to go out there and be an anonymous source to the media. He said he didn't do that, but apparently they might have some witnesses. They, I don't know, recording, emails that says otherwise. We'll find out.
Yeah, no, the bare bones nature of this charge, of this indictment really stands out. And what we know about it.
And shout out to Mandy Rose. Well, I guess Ashes Rose. Appreciate the support. And hold on. And that is a baller alert, by the way. Appreciate the support, sis. Oh, look, now it's 53. Now we are getting closer. Let's open up those lines and appreciate the support. Shout out, Mandy.
Caitlin, is that Lindsay Halligan, who is the newly installed U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, she is the one who personally presented this to the grand jury. That's not normal. Usually you have career assistant U.S. attorneys who make these presentations to the grand jury. In this case, we know that there were concerns that were raised by the career lawyers in that office who did not believe that this was a case that they could bring to fruition. And so what we have here is two counts against the former FBI director, an extraordinary day in America.
Oh yeah, and the second count is obstruction of congressional proceedings. So basically like getting in the way of an investigation. The government alleged he attempted to influence, obstruct, and impede the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation by giving false or misleading statements. So yeah, I mean, those are the two charges that they have on them, and well, indictments that they have on them, and we're gonna see where that goes.
American history, of course. But we also know that there was a third count that prosecutors had tried to get approval for that the grand jury rejected. We know that what was rejected, according to the magistrate judge, was a count of false statements in the jurisdiction of a congressional proceeding and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. And so those two carry 5-year terms if he is convicted. Of course, we're a long way from there. And we know that Comey, as he says in his video statement there, is planning to fight this. We also have a statement from his personal lawyer, Pat Fitzgerald, who says Jim Comey denies the charges filed today in their entirety. We look forward to vindicating him in the courtroom. And so that process begins tomorrow in earnest, as your reporting indicates. He's going to be surrendering in the federal court there in Alexandria. And then we'll see how this case fares before a judge and before eventually perhaps a jury.
Yeah, and so since he's expected to surrender tomorrow, I just think for everyone watching, there are some people complaining on the right that he's not being arrested. The agents aren't showing up at his house to arrest him as a result of this. What is tomorrow going to look like? What are you going to be watching for as the next steps happen here over what was so clearly telegraphed by the president himself here?
Yeah, look, I mean, your reporting, which indicates that he's going to be allowed to surrender, is actually a very big deal because, as you pointed out, people on the right, they want him picked up like Roger Stone was and other people were. And look, what usually happens in these cases, in normal cases, is that someone who, like him, is not a flight risk, is not believed to have any plans to flee, is given the opportunity to surrender themselves. And so that is being handled in the normal course that it is. They've been in touch with his lawyers and they know what is going to happen. Now,
yeah, he's innocent till proven guilty. So like I said, allegedly, this is what he did. We will see what the evidence is and how things get brought down on him, because I'm pretty interested. I wonder the evidence that they got on him to the point where they're so confident on it. They're like, yeah, we can indict you on this and we're going to go ahead and see what we can get. I mean, hey, must be some pretty convincing evidence, or at least somewhat convincing. And shout out to my man Hellbat. He says, don't worry, nobody's above the law. The bar for investigation is very low. Your rules, we win. I mean, shout out to my man Hellbat. And appreciate the support, guys. Let's not forget to double tap that screen and like the video. Let's get more people in the conversation by double tapping that screen. And this stream is powered by Celsius, which you can also get as well if you go ahead and look above, and you'll also see some products, and you can get you a pretty patriotic shirt. All right, back to the show.
Expect that he's going to be released on his own recognizance, and then this trial will begin. This case will begin in earnest. Here's the thing: the fact that the president of the United States has made so crystal clear what he wants in this case has done some damage. And the briefs from Pat Fitzgerald and the lawyers kind of write themselves, right? Because the president has made clear that he was ordering this prosecution. And we know from our own reporting and what's out there that prosecutors in the office had some concerns. We also know that Lindsay Halligan, who was just brought there in the office, was the one who had to personally present this case to the grand jury. So all of that stuff will come rushing back as part of the story, as part of the case, as this goes forward.
Yeah, Evan Perez, as you learn more, obviously, throughout the hour, we'll check back in with you and our team. Thank you for that reporting.
Sure.
My legal sources are here tonight. We've got Elliot Williams, Judge Jill Convisor, and Ellie Honig, three of the best voices on this. And Elliot Williams, I want to start with you because I just want to read some reporting from my colleague, Caitlin Polantz, who is says that a court record has made public what the grand jury voted no on, what Evan was just referencing there in terms of a potential third charge here. And that was on another alleged false statement to Congress. As Caitlin notes in her reporting here, she says that's a very unusual occurrence in the federal court system. And this is not part of the indictment, but according to the record, it pinpoints Comey's answer when he was asked about an alleged plan from Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. He had testified to Lindsey Graham back in 2020, given this was 5 years ago, people probably don't recall this, that didn't ring any bells with him. Graham had told him about this alleged plan, about distracting from her use of an email server. It is something that obviously conservatives have talked about at length. And I wonder what you make of the fact that the grand jury said yes on two of these charges, but no on that third charge there.
Right. It's a notable occurrence anytime the grand jury does not reject a charge. Now, it's certainly not a rubber stamp for the work of prosecutors, but for the most part, when prosecutors go to the grand jury, they come back with charges. Now, what it appears, I think the logical conclusion to draw from it is that the grand jury simply did not believe there was probable cause to find that the offense was committed. Now, there might have been evidence to suggest that Jim Comey had knowledge there, but really, what needed to be established was that he knew his statement was false and still made it anyway. That is the big wrinkle here and is going to apply across all the other charges in this case. Not simply that there was a statement that people didn't like or that was ambiguous or had some gray area, but that he knew he was making a falsehood, a material falsehood, and still went ahead and made it anyway. Those can sometimes be hard to prove, and I would assume that the grand jury just assumed they didn't have it here.
All right. Now let's go ahead and get into J.D. Vance interview with Laura Ingraham. Let's get into it.
Earlier today, I had the chance to sit down exclusively with Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House. Covered everything from Kamala to Kimmel to Kirk. And of course, the dangerous.
Yeah, apparently, Kamala's book came out, and it's people like, "Oh, this is full of lies." And then she says something pretty homophobic. Actually, it was actually pretty funny. She said she didn't choose Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg. Well, the gay senator. She didn't choose that guy, Pete Buttigieg, because, well, he's gay. I know, right? I was like, whoa, Kamala said that in her book. Like, oh, that's crazy. That is hilarious. So you didn't pick the decent communicator. You picked Tim Walz, a complete F up, but you didn't want to get the good communicator because he was gay. You didn't feel like America was ready for a gay vice president. That's wild to say right there. That is wild.
Rhetoric Democrats continue to spew.
As somebody who understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
Donald Trump's modern day Gestapo.
ICE, you see slave patrol? No. Slave patrol mean we would catch them and take them back to the farms that they're pretty much, being taken advantage on. We would catch them and bring them to, your neighbor's house to fix up their roof for free. Yeah, I think you forgot what slave catchers were.
Is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks.
Which would be nice.
Snatched off the street by secret police who are wearing masks.
These people are terrorizing our communities.
Mr. Vice President, thanks for joining us tonight.
Good to see you.
Democrats have called ICE agents everything from slave patrols, kidnappers, and Nazis who are terrorizing communities. So we saw yet another shooting yesterday at an ICE facility. So what's your message to Democrats who keep spewing this type of violent rhetoric?
Well, it's to look in the mirror and stop this craziness, or you're going to get somebody killed. In fact, I think a lot of them already have gotten somebody killed, namely my friend Charlie Kirk and a number of other folks as well. If you look at, it's not just the Democrats, Laura, the media is participating in this. I saw a story on NBC News just a couple of days ago, right before the ICE shooting in Dallas, and they were effectively accusing ICE of mistreating a 5-year-old child. Now, it turned out that story was completely fake, but if you read that headline and you were a crazy person, I could see how that could.
They said, oh, yeah, Trump is deporting children, American citizens. And we're like, no, we're deporting their mom because they're an illegal and she wants to take her kids with her. I mean, who are we to separate a family? Like, what do you Dems want us to do? Separate the family and put the kids in foster care? Like, that's effed up.
Incite you to violence. So I think in a lot of ways, the Democrats and the media, because they so hate the idea of a real border, are engaging in a kind of blood libel against ICE agents. They're accusing them of engaging in crimes. They're accusing them of being part of the Gestapo. They're actually inciting violence against our law enforcement. They know exactly what they're doing, and now it's time to stop. Now, the shooting of yesterday, it turns out that the people who were killed were actually detainees, not ICE agents. I'm obviously glad that ICE agents weren't killed in that.
Yes, one detainee died, not two, but one
attack, but saddened that these detainees were killed, because though we don't want illegal aliens in our country, we also don't want them being shot at by crazy left-wing terrorists, which is, I think, what happened yesterday in Dallas. So all of this should have the left stepping back and saying, how can we actually contribute to a more reasonable conversation? Yes, we can criticize J.D. Vance's and Donald Trump's views on immigration, but we're not going to attack the law enforcement with libel and lies. We're going to make this a reasonable policy disagreement. I think that's how you tone down the rhetoric. Unfortunately, the Democrats show no willingness to do that. But again,
I mean, when you call ICE slave catchers, Gestapo, I mean, come on now, Nazis, what do you think is going to happen? Like I said, it's like the left's rhetoric is out of control and they don't understand how they're radicalizing some people. I mean, I know you guys are trying to sell a point and y'all don't really believe that, but some people aren't smart enough to recognize that.
They don't stop, they're going to get more people killed.
Democrats' rising star, she's described as that, Jasmine Crockett, is one of the many refusing to tone down the rhetoric. Watch this.
I am using that language because it is accurate language. When we see them trying to chill speech of jokesters, when we're seeing all of this, that is a playbook out of Hitler.
Playbook out of Hitler, Mr. Vice President. Look, if...
Oh, no, shout out to hell, but he said that's a different one. Vance is referring to what, saying they were using children to lure their fathers out to snatch them is... I ain't gonna lie, that's diabolical. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, that if they were doing that, that is diabolical. I'm like, what? Like, come out here, don't we got your child so we can deport you? Yeah, that don't even sound right. I'm sorry, but like, they're not criminals, guys. Well, I'm gonna be real with you. They're not, like, I'm gonna be real, not violent criminals. Not all of them are violent criminals. They just overstayed their welcome. So to sit there and use their children as bait is completely unnecessary and, be honest, is untrue. And if anybody believes that, well, they got you, guys. They got you, because that is not true. There's no way they're doing that because, well, it's unnecessary to do so. They can just, I don't know, go into a Home Depot parking lot. I mean, go ahead and run into your nearby factory and they'll catch plenty of them. They don't got to sit there and use kids as bait. Like, come on now.
If we really thought Hitler was running the U.S. government, it would be our duty as citizens.
You're acting like we dealing with terrorists in Afghanistan. Like, come on now, guys, chill out.
To try to stop that by any means necessary. So that is an example of what we're seeing today.
Well, that's exactly right. And a reasonable response to fascism, to Nazism would be violence, right? So what they're saying effectively is that you should engage in violence because the regime, using Jasmine Crockett's words, are so bad. Look, this is obvious. They're obviously using the kind of rhetoric that turns the dial up to 10. They're trying to make this, they're trying to delegitimize our entire political worldview. But in the process, I think that they're motivating at least some crazy people to go out and commit acts of violence. And again, Laura, I'm a big boy. Criticize my views on immigration policy all you want. Criticize the president, criticize our administration. But when you lie about our ICE officers, when you encourage unmasking and doxing, when you encourage your followers to go and engage in violent protests against our law enforcement, you are...
Yeah, I mean, look at LA. They was throwing rocks at them. I mean, they was crushing their... I mean, let's be real. Some of the ICE agents sustained damage. And I mean, got their arms crushed. Vehicles were damaged. Like, this was absolutely insane what was going down in LA. And then the left was championing it. They was championing it. And there was her law enforcement. And this was the same left I was getting mad about the Capitol Police on January 6th. Remember that part? The same ones.
By definition, inciting violence against the men and women who keep us safe. That's what really worries me. It's not the criticisms of me. It's the criticisms of the people on the ground who are just doing their job. They're trying to keep us safe. They're trying to enforce our border laws. And they are being treated by terrorists by the Democrats and leadership in Washington, D.C. It's disgraceful, but more than that, it is inciting violence against our police officers, against our ICE officers. It's just got to stop. They're going to get more people killed. They've already gotten people killed. It's got to stop.
On a cultural touchstone, which also,
and sadly, it's like the people that was one of the people that they're trying to, I guess, stand up for. That kid ended up killing.
seems to be having a lot of political implications is the Jimmy Kimmel issue. His second night back on the air, he called Donald Trump a bully.
For those who think I go too hard on Donald Trump, to the point where there are still a lot of people who think I should be pulled off the air for making fun of Donald Trump. So I want to explain.
No. See, that's what I'm saying. Like the complete lie of it. No, bro, you was pulled off the air for saying that the shooter was MAGA. That's why. That's why you got pulled off the air, and that's why you got suspended. I mean, after that, you let it with a distasteful joke about Trump's grievancing, his grieving. I'm sorry, him grieving Charlie Kirk. So you want to sit here and try to pretend like it wasn't about news distortion. You're on ABC. ABC has to maintain an FCC licensing. I mean, and so does their affiliates. So he can't go out there and say that on their airways. I mean, he can say it on YouTube, he can say it on Spotify, anywhere else, but an airway that has to maintain an FCC license. So it had nothing, honestly, to do with Trump or the FCC. It had everything to do with, ABC affiliates hearing complaints from the people that watch them, saying that they do not like what Kimmel said, and they do not like how he literally tried to say that the shooter was MAGA. And honestly, that is a policy of the FCC to not do what? News distortion. Even if you are a late night talk show host, bro, he could have been, like I said, it could have been a cartoon that said the same thing he said, and they'd have still got in trouble. So it's consistent across the board.
I talk about Trump more than anything because he's a bully. Donald Trump is an old-fashioned 80s movie style bully.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good. So it is.
Yeah, because what was it? I think it was St. Clair Media Group and Next Star Media Group did not put him back on the airways because, they didn't do what he asked. He pretty much said, screw him. But hey, though, Jimmy Kimmel, he kind of came back with a pretty good ratings on that first episode. So at a certain point, they're like, who gives a damn? But it does kind of go to show that, he didn't really turn down the temperature. He didn't really apologize. And he kind of, I ain't going to say he was fake crying, but he hit us with a very unconvincing, sad voice. Very unconvincing. But it is what it is.
Actually, we should let these stations determine whether they want a non-funny comedian.
Why should the government chime in at all? I mean, doesn't it give them fodder for their argument that this is like a pressure because of the mergers that are coming up, and so this is the government kind of putting its finger on the scale? So why even mention Jimmy Kimmel? It's just helping him.
I think that Brendan.
Oh yeah, and they did also try to say that. The reason why ABC or Disney went ahead and got involved. They're trying to say it's because of the merge that they're trying to get. I think Nexstar is trying to purchase. What was it? I don't know, some other media group, but they're pretty much trying to say that they're trying to capitulate to the FCC in order to be good with the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. So they'll go ahead and let them get that merge. But to be quite honest, I mean, even then you guys would be admitting that it's not about government interest, it's about corporate interest.
Or put out a couple of tweets or a couple of truths or whatever he did, that does not constitute government coercion. And it's pretty rich, Laura, coming from the Democrats after years of the Biden administration explicitly demanding that social media companies censor. You didn't hear anything from the Democrats. You didn't hear anything from these celebrities about free speech. But Brendan Carr putting out a couple of tweets constitutes the shutdown of Jimmy Kimmel's free speech rights. It's preposterous. There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his
And I know they try to say, oh, it's about freedom of speech. I mean, no, it isn't. What you mean? The government didn't get involved. A private corporation did. And the whole First Amendment protects you guys from government interference and, of course, getting prosecuted. But, of course, the government interference and prosecution. I mean, if your job wants to fire you from what you say online, it's their prerogative to do so. I mean, it's go ahead. They can do it. And it's all legal. I mean, if that's violating your First Amendment, then hey, you're pretty much saying that you can't be fired for saying like what outrageous things online or posting outrageous things online. And you're pretty much just saying you could be a brand risk to your company and they can't do anything about it. Like, is that fair? Like, think about that.
Meetings aren't very good.
He didn't apologize. Would it matter if he did?
I think it would matter. Actually, I'd love for Jimmy Kimmel to apologize to Erica and to all of the people that he slandered. He tries to say that he told a joke. He didn't tell a joke. He was actually accusing right-wing America, conservative America, of killing Charlie Kirk. We now know that is false. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing assassin who was radicalized by some of the rhetoric that we see coming from the far left. When you accuse the people who've been holding prayer vigils, who've been praying about Charlie Kirk, you accuse them of killing Charlie Kirk.
I mean, if y'all want to do the argument of using jawboning in this situation, bro, because let's go ahead and read out the definition of jawbone. So pretty much they're saying attempt to persuade or pressure by force of one's position of authority. So by the force of one's position of authority. So you're pretty much saying that your boss who signs your check can't say nothing to you. That's how y'all sound right now. I mean, of course, there's a word for your boss coming down on you if you want to call it jawboning, but it doesn't impede your First Amendment rights. I mean, as long as it's not, well, the government coming down on you, unless you work for the government, and then that makes sense. But if you're pretty much saying that because an authority, because your boss, or in the Kimmel's case, the ABC affiliates in Disney, bro, if that's your problem, then I'm be honest with you, you're being a bit unfair. You're pretty much saying that your job can't fire you for saying outrageous things online, but they can. And that doesn't go against your First Amendment rights because the government's not coming after you. The law's not coming after you, but your job is, and they can do that. So the whole jawboning thing, it just doesn't stand up in this argument. And I'm like I said, I mean, but if you want to sit here and say that, hey, no boss can fire you for whatever you say, then I mean, shoot, that's your stance, not mine. Now, shout out Dr. Butt Tool. Why are liberals also so pathetic mentally and physically? Never seen so many small pencil neck, little handed dudes. Oh, god damn. Yeah, I mean, they do have a uniform, do they not? They do tend to be either overweight or scrawny with colored hair. I mean, or, well, untamed hair. They do have quite the uniform.
We know it was a left-wing assassin. You're actually apologizing for his murder. You're
a pretty damn obvious uniform. You could damn near tell who's a liberal by looking at him.
Encouraging more of that violence to happen. If we're going to stop this crazy strain of left-wing violence, we have to be honest about what it is. And the honest truth is that Charlie Kirk was not killed by a MAGA American. He was not killed by a Republican. He was killed by a left-wing radical. Let's be honest about that fact so that we can stop it from happening.
There were disturbing flyers found on Georgetown University's campus yesterday, put up by a leftist gun club with the phrase, "Hey, fascist, catch," which was the same engraving on the bullets near where the assassin was who killed Charlie. So what is your reaction to this? And is there a role that the federal government can play with these?
I'm gonna be rude. I can't believe that's really an argument. Jawbone? So, like, Kimmel's boss come to them. This, which is pretty much what y'all saying. All right, the Disney comes to him and say, yo, Kimmel, bro, what you said on there was outrageous. Can you go ahead and take it back and issue an apology? He says no, so they suspend him and they let him back on. And you're pretty much saying that's wrong? That's wrong. Like I said, you guys obviously, like, do y'all really work a job? How about this? Why don't you go out there and say something outrageous on your social media and see what happens to you the next day at work? Why don't you go ahead and make an outrageous, say something outrageous on TikTok, make a video and see if you have your job in a week. I'm just saying, go ahead, do it. F around and find out, because apparently y'all don't understand this one thing right here.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Universities, given what's being done to perhaps incite violence against conservative speakers or conservative students or the few conservative faculty on these campuses?
Well, first of all, as a basic policy issue, if you are using federal dollars to incite violence against conservatives, you're not going to get those federal dollars anymore. And we're looking at that right now. So Georgetown needs to make sure that it's actually making it safe for everybody, whether they're liberal or conservative, to express their views. If you're promoting and encouraging violence, I think you're by definition violating the contract you have with your students. You're violating the contract that you have with the American public. Let's step back and just appreciate this. Okay, to engage in an act of political violence, of course, there's the person at the top of the pyramid who's pulling the trigger. That's the person that we're prosecuting. That's the person that we're going after that has to see justice. But there's also all the people who apologize for that violence. There's the people who celebrate for that violence. There are the people who fund the networks that actually encourage and promote that violence. We really have to dismantle the entire network of left-wing violence in this country.
What are we doing to do that, though,
Well,
Mr. Vice President? A lot of conservatives are frustrated. They feel like the administration might be dragging its feet on this. Antifa is just one organization. There are many out there. But people want to see people go to jail for this.
Well, first of all, people will go to jail for this, but the President of the United States has made very clear we're taking a whole of government approach to this. We're looking at the funding networks. We're looking at the people who are inciting violence. We're looking at the people who are promoting and encouraging violence. That takes time to do it the right way, Laura. We're going to make sure that we do this the right way.
With First Amendment concerns.
Of course, you have to protect people's First Amendment rights. You have to protect people's free speech rights. But the First Amendment does not protect imminent incitements to violence. If you are actively promoting your fellow man to kill other people, that is not protected by the First Amendment, and we have to be clear about that. We have to go after that stuff. But look, Laura, you cannot celebrate the person who murdered Charlie Kirk and be welcome in polite society in this country. You are guilty of—
I mean, yeah, celebrating somebody's death, I mean, yeah, it's no wonder they're getting fired. I mean, if you want to celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, and if you posted on TikTok, you got fired. I mean, bro, how'd you not know that was going to happen? Do you really think that your job wants to be associated with somebody who celebrates somebody else's death? You really think that they want to get down with that when that could hurt their stock, hurt their sales? Bro, when you work for somebody, you can become you're a brand. Remember, you're part of their brand, and you could be a brand risk. And bro, a lot of these guys going out there saying that outrageous stuff about Charlie Kirk and them losing their jobs. I was like, bro, what do you think was going to happen? Like, that made no sense for you to go out there, post videos like that, and think that there wasn't going to be consequences. Like, really?
Encouraging this culture of violence. You're guilty of actually promoting the culture of violence if you're celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder, if you're encouraging other people to take up arms in the same way. You may not be the person pulling the trigger, but if you're not being careful about the way that you incite violence, you are yourself part of the problem, and that's what we need to get to the root of.
Hey, yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, I always do like to point to this poll right here. Now, let's see here. Now, the question was, do you think it is ever justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals? This was asked, and here's the headline. Most Americans across the political spectrum say political violence is never justified, but younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to disagree. And here it is. So a lot in the red, it says, yes, violence is sometimes to be justified. Yes, violence can be sometimes justified. Now, as we go to political ideology, it does seem like the more liberal you are, the more likely you are to think that it's okay to hurt people because they think differently than you. Then it goes down, as you reach liberal, then you're moderate and you're conservative, and yet you're very conservative at 3%. So it does seem like, yeah, it does, guys. It is the left at this point. You guys, here's the thing. You guys are upfront about it. Y'all took a poll. This was y'all one time to denounce it, and you voted on it. So they're snitching on themselves, guys. You sometimes just gotta take them at their word, especially when they want to double down on it and put it on and vote on a poll and still say, you know what? I know this rhetoric is hot. I know this whole Charlie Kirk thing is crazy, but I still want to vote on I should be able to use violence against my political opponents. Still. Man, it's crazy. It is definitely crazy out here. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the next video.
Terror.